My name is Monica and I'm 61 years old. Last night, my own son hit me until bled over a bowl of unsalted soup. While I was left on the kitchen floor wiping up my own blood with an old rag, he calmly went to his room, closed the door, and fell asleep as if nothing had happened. As if hitting his own mother were the most normal thing in the world. This morning, I woke up with a sore body, bruises on my arms, and a cut on my lip that still hurts when I talk. But what hurts the most isn't the physical pain. It's the humiliation. It's knowing that my own son, the one I raised with so much love, the one I gave everything to, sees me as his personal maid. It's knowing that my only purpose in this world is to serve him and keep quiet. I got up at 5 in the morning, just like every other day. Ethan was already awake, sitting at the kitchen table in his impeccable grey suit, scrolling on his phone. He didn't even look at me when I entered. He just said without looking up, "Breakfast. Hurry up. I have an important meeting." It was as if nothing had happened, as if he hadn't screamed at me the night before, calling me worthless, useless, and saying that if I weren't his mother, he would have thrown me out on the street. I prepared his scrambled eggs exactly the way he likes them, with 3 spoonfuls of shredded cheese, 2 slices of toasted bread, and black coffee with no sugar. Everything had to be perfect, measured to the last detail, because if anything is even slightly off, he explodes. And when Ethan explodes, I'm the one who pays the consequences. While he was eating breakfast, the sound of a key turning in the front door lock echoed through the house. It was a young, elegant woman named Savannah, his wife, who always greets me with a fake smile and treats me as if I'm invisible. She came in wearing a light green dress and high heels, kissed Ethan on the cheek, and sat at the table as if she owned the place. "Good morning, Mrs. Davis," she said to me in that sweet voice she only uses when Ethan is around. "How are you this morning?" I wanted to tell her that I woke up bruised by her husband, that I had bruises all over my back, that I couldn't take it anymore. But instead, I smiled and said, "I'm fine, thank you." "Are you going to have some breakfast, Savannah?" I asked. Ethan shot me a warning look. His eyes were clearly saying, "One wrong word and tonight will be worse." Then he added with that fake smile he only uses when he has an audience, "Look, Mom, I bought you this new makeup. It's perfect for covering those little scrapes you got when you tripped last night." Yes, little scrapes. That's what he calls what he did to me. As if it were an accident. As if I had tripped and fallen on his fist all by myself. I took the makeup without saying anything. It was an expensive foundation, the kind that costs more than $50. He probably bought it with my retirement money because he manages my entire bank account. He says it's for my own good, that at my age, I can't handle money on my own anymore. The truth is, I haven't seen a single penny of my own pension in 2 years. Savannah was looking at him with those shining eyes of admiration. "You're so thoughtful, honey. Always taking care of your mom." If only she knew. If only she knew that her perfect husband, that successful executive who handles million-dollar accounts at the office, comes home every night to take out his frustration on me. After breakfast, Ethan put on his red tie, grabbed his briefcase, and whispered in my ear while Savannah was touching up her makeup. "Remember what we talked about last night? If you ever open your mouth, if you tell anyone what happens here, you're going to regret it. No one will believe you. You're just a crazy old woman living off her son's charity." His words chilled me to the bone. They left together, holding hands like the perfect couple they pretend to be. I watched them from the window as they got into Ethan's new car, a black sedan that cost more than $400,000. My money, All of it bought with my money. When the house fell silent, I sat in the kitchen and started to cry. Not tears of sadness, but of rage, of helplessness. Because I know I have to do something, but I don't know what. I know I can't keep living like this, but I also don't know how to get out of this nightmare. I sat in that silent kitchen for hours, watching the sunlight slowly make its way across the floor tiles. This house used to be my sanctuary. I bought it 30 years ago with the money I saved working as an executive secretary at the law firm of Sullivan and Associates. 40 years of my life dedicated to that job. Getting up at 5 in the morning, always on time, organizing the lives of others. I never imagined I'd end up a prisoner in my own home. It all started 3 years ago when Ethan divorced his first wife. He showed up at my door one night with a suitcase in his hand and that look of a lost boy that always melted my heart. "Mom, I need to stay here for a while, just until I sort out my financial situation." He told me the divorce had left him bankrupt, that he had lost his house, that he had nowhere to live. I, like the foolish mother I've always been, opened my door and my heart. "Of course, son, this is your home, too." How naive. I didn't know I was inviting the devil to live with me. The first few months were normal. Ethan would get up early, go to work, come back at night, and we'd eat dinner together. He even helped me with the grocery shopping. I thought we would finally have the mother-son relationship I'd always dreamed of. But little by little, things started to change. First, it was small comments. "Mom, this food is too salty." "Mom, why don't you clean the bathroom better?" "Mom, your clothes are too wrinkled." It's embarrassing. Comments that hurt, but that I justified by thinking he was just stressed from 6 minutes and 14 seconds the divorce. Then he started getting into my finances. "Mom, at your age, you shouldn't be handling so much cash. It's dangerous. Let me help you with your accounts." And I, like the idiot I am, gave him access to my bank account. It's just to help me, I thought. He's my son. He would never hurt me. How wrong I was. In 6 months, Ethan had completely taken over my money. My monthly $1,200 pension went directly to his account. He gave me $20 a week for personal expenses. As if I were a child receiving an allowance. When I asked him about the rest of the money, he would say, "Mom, I'm investing your savings to help them grow. Trust me." Then Savannah came along, a woman 25 years younger than him with a perfect smile and an ambition you could spot from a mile away. Ethan met her at his office where she worked as a marketing assistant. 6 months later, they got married in a ceremony that cost over $100,000. My money, of course. Since Savannah came into our lives, everything got worse. Ethan started treating me like the housemaid. "Mom, make dinner for Savannah and me. Something elegant. She's used to fine things." "Mom, clean the guest bathroom. Important people are coming over." "Mom, wash this shirt by hand. It's too expensive for the washing machine." And I always obeyed. I obeyed because I was afraid he'd get angry. Afraid he'd follow through on his threat to kick me out of my own house. Because even though the house is legally mine, Ethan convinced me to put his name on the deed, too, for security. He said, "Mom, just in case something happens to you." The violence started a year ago. At first, it was accidental pushes, then pinches on my arm when I didn't do something the way he wanted. "You're driving me crazy, Mom. You're too slow." Then, it escalated to hits on the shoulder, slaps when the food wasn't to his liking, and punches to my back if I wasn't cleaning fast enough. But last night was different. Last night, he crossed a line I never thought he would cross. I had prepared vegetable soup for dinner. It was a Tuesday and we always have a light meal on Tuesdays. I carefully set the table, served the toasted bread and the hot soup. Everything was perfect. Ethan came home tired from the office, sat at the table without greeting me, took the first spoonful, and his face changed. "What the hell is this?" he yelled, spitting the soup back into the bowl. "It has no salt. It's as bland as water." I immediately apologized. "I'm sorry, son. I forgot the salt. Let me add a little," but it was too late. Ethan stood up from the table like a wild animal, grabbed the bowl of soup, and threw it in my face. The hot liquid burned my cheek. Pieces of porcelain cut my lip. "You're useless," he screamed, grabbing my arm so hard I knew it would leave a bruise. 40 years working as a secretary and you can't even make a decent soup. You're pathetic. He shoved me against the kitchen wall. My head hit the tile and I saw stars. But he didn't stop there. He slapped me so hard my ear burst for hours. Then another one and another one after that. "Savannah is bringing her friends over for lunch tomorrow," he told me while I covered my face with my hands. "I want you to prepare something special and you'd better make sure it's perfect because if you make me look bad, if you show even one sign of how pathetic you are, I swear to God I'll kick you out of this house." Then he calmed down as he always does after he hits me. He bent down, helped me up, and wiped the blood from my lip with a napkin. "I'm sorry, Mom," he said in a soft voice. "I just get so frustrated seeing you like this. I know you can do better. It's all for your own good, so you learn." And he went to sleep peacefully, as if nothing had happened. I stayed awake all night in the kitchen, cleaning up the remains of the soup and the broken porcelain from the floor. Every little piece I picked up felt like I was picking up the fragments of my own dignity. My lip was still bleeding, but it wasn't just physical pain I was feeling anymore. It was something deeper, something darker. It was the realization that my own son, the person I loved the most in this world, had become my tormentor. As I cleaned, I started to remember how we got here. Ethan wasn't always like this. When he was a boy, he was sweet and affectionate. His father left us when he was 8 years old, and from then on, it was just him and me against the world. I worked double shifts for years to give him everything he needed. I put him in the best private school I could afford. I bought him designer clothes, paid for piano lessons, English lessons, anything he asked for. Maybe that was my mistake. Maybe I spoiled him so much that he never learned the value of respect, of effort, of real love. I always gave him everything on a silver platter without asking for anything in return. And now, 35 years later, I'm the one paying the consequences for my decisions. At dawn, I heard his footsteps coming down the stairs. My heart started to beat fast, as it always does when he's near. It's incredible how a person can live in a constant state of alert in their own home. He came into the kitchen already dressed in his black suit, checking his phone as he did every morning. This time, he didn't even ask for breakfast. He just sat and waited for me to serve it to him. I prepared his scrambled eggs, his black coffee, his 2 slices of toasted bread, all in absolute silence. He ate while answering emails as if I were invisible. At 7:30, Savannah arrived. This time, she was wearing a tight yellow dress and high heels that echoed on the floor like hammer blows. She looked radiant as always. I wonder if she ever notices the bruises I have, the marks on my arms, the way I flinch every time Ethan raises his voice. "Good morning, Mrs. Davis," she said to me with that plastic smile. "How are you feeling today?" "Fine, thank you." I lied as always. "Are you going to have some breakfast?" "Just a coffee, please," she said. A light one with artificial sweetener. As I was serving her coffee, I noticed her observing me out of the corner of her eye. Her eyes stopped on my swollen lip, on the bruise peeking out from the collar of my blouse. For a moment, I thought she might say something, that she might ask what had happened to me, but instead she simply looked away and went back to her phone. Ethan finished his breakfast and looked at me intently. "Remember what I told you last night, Mom? Savannah is bringing 3 of her friends over for lunch. I want you to prepare something special. Seafood, pasta, Caesar salad, desserts, and buy some white wine. The good stuff, not that cheap garbage you're used to buying." He gave me 3 $20 bills as if it were a great generosity. $60 to prepare a lunch for 5 people with what he spends on a single shirt. "And one more thing," he added, leaning in to whisper in my ear while Savannah wasn't looking. "Put on that makeup I bought you. Cover those marks well. If any of her friends ask anything strange, if they make any comment about your appearance,